So I guess I have a theoretical question to ask you, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, you wrote this book. It's a really good book, Moral Development and Reality, and you have a very synthetic approach where you're really synthesizing key elements of many theories, such as specifically Hoffman, Kohlberg, and Haidt. And I'm just wondering, since your analysis is very retrospective in the sense that you look back and you're putting it into the present, into the future, what do you think the future of moral development slash moral psychology looks like with these theories in mind moving forward? Like, is there a way to actually kind of merge it all together, or are things still going to be kind of mutually irreducible, as you mentioned?
Yeah, good question. Eh, I don't, developmental psychology, I agree with Bob Siegler that it's become more oriented to, you might say, bits and pieces, and it's he in I quote his blurb for the 2019 edition. I don't know if you can see this, but he expresses his frustration. He's at Columbia now, Bob Siebert, and but anyway, he wrote something that I would agree with. At a time when the study of moral development is more about describing and explaining details of the trees than about characterizing the forest as a whole, Gibbs provides a much needed integration of what's known and what remains to be learned in this important area, integrating the distinct perspectives of Kohlberg, Hoffman, Haidt, and Bloom, as well as providing unique insights of his own. This book is a remarkable achievement. Well, needless to say, I was appreciative of his comment there. But the part about the trees and the forest, I mean, I guess that's how I see my contribution is you might say I'm sort of a classic developmental psychologist, as far as wanting to look at the big picture of things and so on. And maybe the field will come back to the classic, you know, question addressing the basic issues, the basic, going back to Roger Brown, let's put it that way, and really thinking about the field and the larger issues that it's trying to address, and as opposed to what you see so much in the journals these days, which is more and more about less and less and little methodological controversies about you know very specific aspects of this or that study. So yeah, maybe my day will return, but you know and that would be my vision for the future, is for the field to get back to the larger questions and concerns that the other thing, by the way, apropos of that, is our development and reality. As you know, I do a lot with the reality part toward the end of the book, and talk about whether there's a deeper reality, and that gets into the near-death experiences, and how does that fit into, because Kohlberg was trying to get at that. He talked about a cosmic perspective, and as a sort of a metaphorical stage seven, and I really think he was overreaching with the idea of the stage characterization, especially if you're talking about a Piagetian stage characterization. So that's when I talk about existential development as a phase of in the lifespan beyond standard development. So and I'm writing what I call my existential memoirs, and so I reflect about my issues, my challenges here at Ohio State, and how I negotiated this controversy where I'm writing about this um, far out phenomenon, and how did that sit with colleagues, so anyway, fortunately, I mean, obviously I survived, and I'm here to tell about it, and so I've sort of, and I think, by the way, I think that there's enough now literature out there that's taking the phenomenon seriously, is not just some sort of fantasy or hallucination, that it, I, we'll see. But I think this so-called, this seemingly far out phenomenon and kindred phenomena. We'll see how things develop. But I do think that in that big picture sense that we were talking about, there should be room even for things like this, for even uh, within existential development. There should be room for psychologists to even ponder spiritual questions and what is the nature of reality vis-a-vis moral development, and can we get in touch with something that's a deeper reality, and so on. The students seem to perk up and appreciate that aspect of the book. And but it's true, you don't find it in the current pages of child development or developmental psych, or what have you. It's not you don't see a lot of journal articles. You see some, but not in the mainstream developmental psychology journals. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I gotta say, when I got to chapter 9 and 10, where you talk about near death experiences and going beyond reality, and more importantly, I would say beyond the theories, right? So, like, like going above and beyond the material, what is it all? What is the ultimate sense of morality and existence and reality? I found it to be intensely unique, and it's something that's very I think a lot of psychologists, which is fine, it's hard to actually have a good grasp on these things. It's they get deeply like shy about it, right? Because it becomes very equivocal and it becomes very um, speculative. So, and I'm glad you went into that realm because it's unique, and I think it's also very important, right? Because you brought up a lot of good questions about like what's the actual purpose of being moral in the sense, like does it tap into something beyond the things that we can kind of perceive and touch in like our empirical sense. So yeah, I really appreciate those chapters. I gotta say, massive massive props to you for doing that.
Thank you.